of, just some sample ordinances, that you can use, add to, take away, or draft a brand new one. For talking points, this is just something, that I came up with. And the one that I have, it says an ordinance to delegate the authority of the office of the mayor to hire and terminate certain, city employees. Of course, John drafted these up. Whereas the Charter of Town of Livingston provides the Board of Aldermen may be, by ordinance, delegate the authority to hire and terminate employees of the office of mayor, whereas the Town of Livingston Board of Mayor and Aldermen have determined that it's desirable to delegate such authority to the mayor and to define the scope of limitations of said authority. Now therefore it be ordained by the Town of Livingston Board of Mayor of Aldermen, the mayor of Town of Livingston shall have the authority to hire employees for any budgeted and open position with the exception of department heads and supervisors, which shall require approval of the Board of Aldermen. The mayor shall also have the authority to terminate any employees of Town of Livingston without the approval of Board of Aldermen, except for department heads and supervisors, which will require the approval of the Board of Aldermen. That's just one. The second, or another one, because they're not numbered. The mayor of the Town of Livingston shall have the authority to hire employees for any budgeted and open positions. The mayor shall also have the authority to terminate any employees of the Town of Livingston without approval of the Board of Aldermen. Another one is the mayor of the Town of Livingston shall have the authority to hire all budgeted and open positions. The mayor shall also have the authority to suspend any employee of the Town of Livingston, but shall not terminate any employee without approval. So, those, like I said, was just starting points. I'm not married to any of them. I just thought that I would provide, some, just a few, samples here. I will say, this, that, the last thing that I really would want is, and I think I've told each of you this, for the position of mayor when it comes, election time, for them, for whomever to be out promising jobs, and, firing folks, that has got long tenure and is qualified, for the position that they are in. But in politics, and it's certainly an elected, official's position, if you're not careful, you could, if we wasn't careful, every 4 years, have a new staff. And, it's my opinion that's not in the best interest of the city. I don't think it's in, we've got, long tenured and experienced, seasoned employees, and we certainly need to keep it that way. However, just mindful of how we got here was simply, being able to hire, employees, when positions, were open, and not have to wait, the full 30 days, in the event, if a position is there, it's budgeted, and someone is left, that, instead of putting that department head, or two that leaves in some cases, instead of waiting, if that was to happen in the first month, and you've got 20+ days, that you go without an employee. So that's kind of where we all started from. I'm certainly, whatever the board decides to do is certainly what we, the city and myself, will respect to do. But I just, I've been here 15 years, and I don't think that I've recommended to terminate anybody. Phyllis, is that right or wrong? Right. So, due process, I certainly believe in that. I believe that, not every time the first strike you're out, okay? I try to handle everything as fair as we can possibly be. So that's all I'm gonna say. We'll do whatever like I said, the board like to do, and the table is certainly open for discussion.
That was the biggest consent from the people in the city that called me. They was afraid that, a new mayor could come in and fire everybody across the board.
I got a couple of those.
Yeah, so I understand that. I wouldn't want that to happen either. I don't know what the language needs to say, but it is important to us, that's why we all brought this up, to let you go ahead and hire somebody in the event of position comes up instead of waiting months. What we need to do.
Right.
That's why I like the first one though, because then it's only supervisors, you can hire anybody, or the mayor can hire anybody under a supervisor. If the supervisor's role's missing, you could promote somebody interim until you can fill that spot.
I agree, I think the first one was the most reasonable one. The only thing I heard, which I think is reasonable, is I think that there should be language that, or there should always be the avoidance of any, hiring of family members that could give appearance of favoritism toward family. I don't know if you put that in the language, I know a lot of entities have, you know, nepotism policies. You know, I think before you hire a family member, that may be something that you consider bringing to the board. I'm not sure, I did hear that, but otherwise, I like the first one.
I just wanna talk about that, Kelly, for just a minute. We do have I didn't bring it, but we do have a nepotism policy.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, and I know that, I think everybody knows that, I have had family.
Sure.
And I disclose that, every time that event comes up. But there's never been a time that the mayor of Livingston's ever been able to hire. So at the end of the day, the Board of Aldermen is always, on the recommendation of supervisor of that department, has always done the hiring. But I'll agree that if in the event, that, there is, nepotism, then it should be disclosed, and the Board of Aldermen should be informed. In fact, I did that just the other day when we hired a female, policeman.
What does our nepotism policy state? That we can or cannot hire? I mean, I guess it must be pretty open if we in fact do hire family, right? So it's not an anti-nepotism clause, it's just a nepotism clause?
There is a clause, I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't. Can you look it up, Phyllis?
Well, I'm just curious.
I think they can't be under the immediate.
Yeah, that's.
Supervision.
Supervision.
Yes.
So the way it has always functioned, the longest an unfilled position would go would be 30 days, barring emergency where a board meeting can't take place and there's a position that needs to be filled. So how often does the issue come up that you need to fill a position and you can't do it because you don't have the ability to hire somebody?
Well, that's kinda hard to answer because, now, for instance.
Most time they've already been working probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it comes for the board, so it's never really been a problem.
Yeah, no, David, we quit doing that 3 or 4 years ago. That if, in the event that, we used to be able to do that, David is correct, but we quit doing that.
So you'd
because-
have some provisional hires pending.
But board,
approval of board or
yeah,
whatever.
approving board approval. We used to be able to do that, but the board stopped that.
Yeah, that's
And wanted
tough.
everybody to go to the board, so that's why this all come up. So to answer your question is, how often does it come up? It comes up, I can't tell you a lot because we don't have a whole lot of turnover in public works and water plants and sewer plants and, you know, we do
Just the police
have,
department.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do have a lot of turnover in our.
So that
police
leads me to
department.
another question.
Right.
If we have a board meeting every 30 days,
Yeah,
and a position comes open unexpectedly, because if somebody gives you, I'm gonna retire in 6 weeks, or I'm gonna move on in 2 months, or whatever, you got plenty of notice for that to come before the board. So if somebody gives you your notice, today, and says, I quit, I'm out of here. How long would it take to carefully vet a replacement for that position anyway?
So, we'll take a week.
Okay.
I mean, for example, which Jerry's here, if you had an experienced backhoe operator that quit, retired, whatever the case may be, Jerry would come to me for that position. He'd go through the applications, or if he knew someone that was looking for a job, then we would try to get them on board immediately. I mean, because, certain positions need to be filled quickly.
Right.
I mean,
So it could be, best case scenario, 3 weeks that you're sitting twiddling your thumbs and you don't have a backhoe operator, a sewer plant supervisor.
best case
whatever.
scenario is a week. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario would be 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's what, I guess
That's
that's what
what
I'm
you were
saying,
saying.
worst
Yeah.
case scenario, you'd have three or 4 weeks.
Yeah, but that,
Yeah.
that just, it really does put a burden on the departments when we have to wait to hire someone. It really, really does. I can say that, whether the board gives the approval or not. That, and that's, again, that's why we all came here, is to try to take care of the vacant positions.
The biggest deal was 2 years before you got here, when me and Kelly come on, it was the police department, basically. Was going through a lot of employees. Of course, they'd have to wait till the next meeting. And if we do a call meeting, it costs money. What does that cost? I know the county is
Well,
like an extra $200.
Yeah, I mean, it, of course, the whatever it costs to put in both newspapers and the radio to make the announcement.
We have hired people over the phone.
I guess my only concern is, and I guess there's always this, there's always the oversight that the board has that, for instance, a situation, let's say you or whoever hires somebody 3 weeks ago, and then it comes to the board, and then the board says, hey, I know that this person should not be in this position for X, Y, Z, and what would be the mechanism then?
Well,
Provided that's a legitimate concern. I mean, I've had that happen in business,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you have too.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess you, and I say this with the utmost respect, I mean, you're gonna have to trust who's ever in this position, that they're going through the proper channels. If that needs to be spelled out in the ordinance, then I think it needs to be spelled out, background
Well,
checks.
I'm not saying that,
Uh,
I'm saying there is mechanism. I mean, the Board of Aldermen, does the Board of Aldermen have the ultimate control? Like, let's say you hired somebody and there was some horrible, whatever, fact that came to light to the Board of Aldermen, and then after this person was hired a month down the road, it was like, listen, we can't have this person. I mean, there's a mechanism in place already that person could be terminated. And I guess, are all hires, any new hire, are they on any sort of a probationary or trial period? Like, do they have their first 60 days, 90 days, whatever, where if it's not a good fit for whatever reason, they can be let go?
So, we used to have a probationary period, and, I know, and I have not read the policy and procedure of the day lately, okay? But I know that Tennessee's an at-will state.
Right.
So, I know that in the event, that we wanted to relieve someone of their duties and their services was no longer rendered, then the Board of Aldermen certainly could do that. But it would take board action to do that. Unless, today, unless things change, Phyllis, is there a probationary period? I know we went back and forth with that.
I don't think there is
Yeah,
now.
I think that,
So there is a probationary,
there is not,
Not
there is
now.
not, okay.
but we could put one in. I mean, we took it out. We had one years ago, and then we took it out because of, some folks could say that that's discriminative. And then our MTS legal said that if you don't want someone there, just tell them their service is no longer rendered, and tell them have a good day. And that's it. That there doesn't have to be a probationary period. Now, if the Board of Aldermen wants to put a stipulation in there, a mechanism that says, that you can hire, with a 60-day, 90-day, 30-day probationary period.
Could you solve it with the concerns I'm hearing, with adding language that simply states that, because clearly any department head or supervisor goes before the board, right? That's what this says.
Right.
So anyone other than a supervisor or department head, you would have the authority to hire or fire, but that you would be required to give notice to the board via email or phone call prior to making the formal offer for any last, objections, unless there's some objection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If somebody knew something, but.
Mm-hmm. So here's how I've been thinking about that.
Mhm.
In the director of schools, they have executive action.
Mhm.
And there would be an executive action form, and under the executive action would say, Ken Dotson quit and we hired Rex Dale.
Sure.
That's what that would say. I would have to be very, very careful about calling you and getting permission.
Sunshine law.
Yeah, that would be a legal issue. I don't think legally we can
Right.
arrange it like that. And again, if you're gonna delegate the authority to the office of mayor, if there's, if you've still got to double check, make sure it's okay, you're not really delegating it.
Right.
You're still,
Right.
so it's.
Yeah, I understand that.
Again, I will operate this however, this is not gonna change the way that we operate the city. My supervisors and I will sit down and come up with the person that is most qualified to do the job. Now, I understand that in the event that, I get beat the next election or.
That's like bottom line,
Yeah,
if you do
right.
start doing a bunch of stuff,
Right.
people don't want to put you out.
Right, that's exactly right, so, but,
But back to that point on this first one, that seems to be the one that we're talking about the most at the moment. We talked about, in the instance that there was a new administration that came in, this one still
absolutely.
gives that mayor, whoever he or she may be, the ability to fire everyone that's not a supervisor or department head. I don't know, was that the direction we wanted?
Oh, hold on, sir.
I see what you're saying. It gives them the authority to fire everybody.
Except supervisors and department heads, so I'm not for
Yeah.
that part.
Okay.
What if we did the top one, and then the last one has the authority to suspend any employees but not terminate? So we put the two together, kinda.
Yeah.
Mesh those two together.
Take the,
And then,
take that out.
I know what, I like Dr. Cole's idea of not just letting them hire anybody, but what if we had in, the ordinance that the department head and the mayor had to agree on the hire? That way you have two people checking everything. Does that make more sense?
And that's probably what's
Or does
happening
that
right
go
now
against-
with you. That's
Okay.
probably what's happening, but.
I mean, I
The
don't,
department head's probably recommending
I
something
don't,
anyway.
I mean, if there's an opening, unless somebody is highly, highly qualified, I'm not gonna say, Jerry, you're gonna take this person.
Well, we're not talking about you.
Yeah, I know
In the
that,
future.
but he asked a question, so I'll just
Yeah.
ask, answer.
Fellas, I'm not doubting the mayor's ability to hire, that's not what I'm doing, but I tell you what, we've never missed a day's work over anybody quitting, getting fired, or anything else. We've went on and worked the next day. What we're doing, we're giving up our duties at what we was elected to do. And and, I feel like this is our job. I mean, we're supposed to be the man in command, and I feel like we're giving up our duties.
Well, David, I hear what you're saying. What about like lifeguards at the city pool? We didn't approve those, did we?
Yeah,
We did?
every city employee.
I don't remember doing that. I mean,
Get a list.
And I
I know we
mean,
got the list.
and I'll be
Oh, we voted
honest
on it.
with you, I don't remember any employee that's been brought to the board by supervisors that anybody's ever voted against.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, who?
Well, I don't wanna say the name, but we embarrassed a young person, one time.
Okay, well,
I think you voted against that employee, David, just to be
well,
honest
I
with
might
you.
have had that.
But,
Okay.
but yes, and it was a very embarrassing moment, and that's when we quit. I put someone to work, the board, allowed politics to get in the way. They did not hire the position, and the young man went home embarrassed, and then I got calls that night from some of those
Well,
board members that said,
I
"Put 'em
don't,
back."
I don't remember, I'm sure you're right without a doubt, I'm sure you're right, because I can't remember yesterday. But, I will tell you this, we're giving up our duties as a board.
Again, I just wanna emphasize, however it goes, I'm okay with it. But the main concern here is simple. To be able to hire back employees for a position that was already budgeted and was vacated for whatever reason. That was the main objection to this. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Okay, so there's been concern raised by several people, and it was a little before you got here, about an incoming administration wiping the slate clean, starting
right.
all over, and there's no overlap, and that would, I think we can all agree that would probably be horrible.
that's right.
It would lead for a very dysfunctional city government.
I agree.
And you could even think, well, even if you keep your supervisors and your department heads, they're gonna have to train all new staff, so that probably isn't great either. But if you gave the ability to hire, but not the ability to fire, that would be a safeguard against that.
Yeah, and I like, you know, I don't know, I'm certainly not one that gets up in the morning and would thump my chest and say, woo-hoo, I can fire. I mean, anybody that enjoys doing that, is just cold-hearted, and I hope we never have nobody in this position, that can do that. I do like, a couple of things. I love right now, the mayor really, by anything that I have read over the last couple of years, does not have anything wrote down that he can even suspend, or her, the position can even suspend. I do think that in the event that something happens, that needs to be on the books, either by ordinance, that the mayor's position can suspend, for cause, that's right. And then further take it to the Board of Aldermen for other action. And I think that with that mechanism in place, I think it's fair, for the city, and I think it's fair for the employee. If they wanna appeal the decision, then they appeal to the Board of Aldermen. Again, but this was all, I don't wanna get plumb in left field here, but again, this was brought up simply to hire, to replace, vacated positions, city employees. That's what it was all about. So.
Well, I don't think there's any of us that question, I mean, you've been doing this a long time, that you're gonna go out tomorrow and change the way you do business.
Right.
I think we all trust you in that respect. But I think long-term,
Right.
we have to think about what's best for the
Absolutely,
city.
I agree.
Because we don't know what the next
That's
mayor's
correct.
gonna do.
I agree.
So I guess, you know, now that it's kinda getting all flushed out, those are very legitimate concerns.
Yeah, sure. I have concerns. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a taxpayer of Livingston, and I live here.
I certainly feel that somebody in the position of mayor ought to have the ability to suspend somebody within defined cause.
Right.
I mean, it certainly seems like, I mean, I didn't have any idea.
That's the way it
you didn't
used to
have that.
be, I don't know
I
if it's
thought that
still
was
there or
in the
not,
policy.
but, you could the mayor could suspend somebody until the board met. And
That-
the board made final decision whether they stayed or went.
There's,
Should be part of the whole due process thing anyway.
that is the way that David, that business has been
Ain't that the way
done.
it used to be? Don't you
It was
remember
the way
that?
it used to be.
There's nothing in writing that
Has
says.
it been changed, or is it not in writing, or what?
I don't think it's in writing yet. I don't
Okay.
like to be.
I think all our personnel policies should be in writing. I mean, if it's not written, it should be, right? I mean,
I agree,
Yeah.
I'm just,
if the
But
authority.
there's been people sent to the house before.
And occasionally it's
And-
warranted.
but you're right,
But yeah,
right.
but, okay, and I mean, I know city government isn't necessarily like private business, but
In-
I don't know that I would agree that I wouldn't trust the mayor to hire and fill budgeted non-department head and non-supervisory positions, because, I mean, if you're talking about dozens and dozens of employees, and I've never been in a position where I have more than maybe 25 employees, but some of the times, you know, my office manager says, hey, we got a medical assistant or whatever, and she's leaving, and I'm like, just find a qualified person and hire her, I don't wanna mess with that. And then, but now we, at our business, have a probationary period, so that if something doesn't work out for unforeseen, it's understood on every employee coming in, if this is not a good fit for whatever reason, you know, nobody's gonna sue anybody, it is a right to work state, so it really wouldn't succeed anyway, but it just kinda sets that tone from the beginning, that, that, you know, hopefully this works out, but if it doesn't, you know, we'll say goodbye in 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is.
Well, and I guess the board can always amend or change any policy.
right.
If the board ever gets in a situation where they feel like the mayor's, you know, another mayor is wildcatting, I mean, you know, they can change the policy, but.
Well, I'll just say one more thing, I mean, I would, if we said that the mayor can suspend, which I think that ought to be put back in, and then we said that the mayor could hire open budgeted positions other than department heads and supervisors, but we didn't say the mayor could fire, then a new administration coming in would be somewhat prevented from
That's right.
clearing out from the
That's right.
middle level down.
That's right.
And then there are things, like I was reading through all these police policies, I mean, there are already things in place where if there's some gross misconduct, that person, you doesn't have to wait for the next meeting, they're gone. If it's some gross thing, I mean, there are things that are already in there, it's
Right.
not like somebody absolutely can't be let go until the next board meeting.
Well,
Maybe we should review all the policies, the personnel policy.
Doc, respectfully, I don't know if that's 100% correct, and I say that respectfully. Right now, the mayor's position cannot fire, period, no questions asked. Even for gross misconduct, it cannot happen. That's why I brought up a minute ago that you should, the position, whomever's in it, should be able to suspend.
Yes, I totally
And-
agree.
I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
suspending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and until a hearing with the Board of Aldermen, whether it needs to be, you know, an appeal process, the employee might wanna appeal, okay?
Right.
But I think whomever, if they've got any management skills, and I would hope that they would have good documentation on why an employee would be suspended or recommended for termination. I hope. I mean, I can tell you, I would never bring anybody to the Board of Aldermen for termination in the event that, I didn't have any documentation. I tell the supervisors all the time, that, you know, just an example, Jerry's not did this, but just an example would be, don't come to, I would rather him not come to me and say that such and such employee, is just not doing a good job, because I'm gonna pull his personnel file. And in his personnel file, it's as clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle. Good performance evaluations. I don't have a leg to stand on in
Right.
court in the event of that, you know, there's litigation. So we quit performance evaluations. Because that's what was recommended, because everybody had a perfect evaluation, and nobody's perfect. So, I'm just saying that there should be some pretty good documentation to the Board of Aldermen on why city employee would be recommended for termination. I'm just saying, so.
And I
But
think
suspension, I think.
Suspension is your good middle ground,
Right.
because that takes
That's right.
the political aspect out as well, you know, so-and-so threatened, you know, that they weren't gonna vote for you if you
Right.
didn't suspend their enemy or what,
Right.
you know, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Or fire.
This is a work session, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah, it's on the agenda, Kelly,
Yeah, as a
but
work
this is
session.
just,
Yeah. You might have a recommendation.
Yeah, you know, I recommend we give the mayor the, power to suspend with cause for up to 30 days until the next board meeting. And, I would also propose that the mayor has the authority to hire non-department head and supervisors open budgeted positions. The mayor does not have the power to fire, terminate.
I like that, I like
That
merging the
first-
first one and
yeah.
the last one.
The first sentence and the second sentence on the last one.
Yep.
Just take,
John,
just
you get
what
that?
you said.
Is that basically what that
What about,
is?
vacancy? No, just let the people figure that out.
You know, yeah. If we've already got a nepotism clause, I mean, we probably need to see what that says.
yeah, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, because if that, it may need to be, language may need to be incorporated in this contract. You don't want a mayor going out and hiring
Oh, absolutely.
all of his.
All of it.
Basically, that'd be-
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, you just can't do
Agree.
that.
And you haven't, well, like you pointed out, you haven't hired because you haven't had the authority to hire.
That's right.
Recommended.
That's right.
But yeah, we'd wanna make sure that there's no,
Right, blanket.
ordinance or directive that's already in
In the
our,
policy that
in our
we're-
policies that would, contradict that
Right.
recommendation.
Okay, that's why we don't meet up here in July, Kelly, most of the time, so.
What my recommendation?
No, I know, Jason Duke has got some things he
Oh,
wants
is
to.
he coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is there, it sounds like that, everybody's,
So
for the most part, in agreement.
could we just get John to reword that and then let us
Yeah.
see the nepotism clause and then table it till next meeting and review it then? Is that the consensus?
You're wanting a nepotism clause in the ordinance.
No, we wanna review the nepotism,
But nepotism,
clause
the
that's in
city's
the city.
nepotism policy.
yeah, and then talk about it next. Is that okay?
That's, we've been operating like this for a long time, so.
Yeah, I think that would be smart.
So,
A big rush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, no big deal.
Kelly, we don't have to have another work session, just put it on the agenda for
Yeah,
next month,
sure.
is that okay?
Sure.
Let's just put it on the agenda, and we will, send out our policy,
Yeah.
tomorrow, and then
John,
we
you
will.
would, let John review it. Correct.
But I think the gist of it is, it does say that, they can't work directly if
does the mayor have any direct supervision, just over department heads and supervisors?
Right.
Right, okay.
Okay, John, do you wanna repeat back what you think the board wants, so everybody's on the,
Okay, so it's my understanding that the board is recommending that the ordinance be, prepared that grants the mayor the authority to hire employees for any budgeted and open positions with the exception of department heads and supervisors, which shall require the approval of the board of aldermen. And, to also grant the mayor the authority to suspend any employees of the town of Livingston, but shall not terminate any employee without the approval of the board of aldermen.
right, okay, I think that's it. And we'll
And
bring
review
back,
the nepotism clause and the current policy and
I'll have.
give us an opinion on it.
Yeah, okay, the work session is closed, and we will start our, board meeting here in